Arthur Morgan, an outlaw, enforcer, gunslinger, but more than that, a man searching for a meaning in a dying world. Red Dead Redemption 2 gave us one of gaming's most complex and human characters, a man shaped by violence, loyalty, and ultimately redemption. This is Arthur Morgan's story, from his troubled childhood to his final breath, a story of survival, redemption, and the final sparks of hope in a fading Wild West. Arthur Morgan was born in 1863, during a time when America was tearing itself apart in the Civil War. But for Arthur, the war didn't matter. His life was already a battlefield. His mother, Beatrice, died when he was young. His father, Lyle Morgan, was a violent criminal, often drunk, abusive, and rarely present. Arthur would later say his father was a mean bastard. But despite the pain, Arthur carried a photograph of him, a sign that even in hardship, he craved connection. When Arthur was just 14, Dutch Vanderlyn and Hosea Matthews found him, two outlaws with charisma, big ideas, and bigger dreams. They didn't just take Arthur in, they raised him. Dutch taught him philosophy, reading, and revolutionary ideals. Hosea taught him how to grift, survive, and think strategically. Arthur didn't just join the Vanderlyn gang, he was forged in it. Arthur grew into a hard, capable man. He became Dutch's right hand, trusted, respected, and feared associate. For years, the Vanderlyn gang roamed freely, pulling off train heists, robbing banks, and sticking it to the government and the wealthy elites. But Arthur wasn't just a muscle. He was intelligent, deeply observant, and introspective. He kept a detailed journal filled with drawings, thoughts, and poetry, a window into a soul far more complicated than the gunslinger he pretended to be. He lived by code, one shaped by Dutch's ideals, freedom, loyalty, and living outside a corrupt system. But even early on, Arthur wasn't blind. He could see the hypocrisy in Dutch's words and the reality of their actions. He also loved. Arthur had a relationship with a woman named Mary Linton, the daughter of a wealthy family. She saw good in him, but Arthur's loyalty to the gang and the life he lived pushed her away. She couldn't accept the violence, and Arthur couldn't walk away. It was a quiet tragedy, one that haunted him for the rest of his life. In 1899, everything changed. A ferry robbery in Blackwater went wrong. Lawmen were dead, the gang barely escaped with their lives, and from that point on, they were running. As the gang moved from place to valleys, swamps, and mountains, Arthur began noticing something. Dutch wasn't the same. He became erratic and cruel. His talk of freedom turned to bloodshed, and Micah Bell, a manipulative newcomer, was whispering in Dutch's ear, driving a wedge between the gang's members. Then came the cough. At first, Arthur ignored it, but he couldn't outrun what it meant. He had contracted tuberculosis from a man named Thomas Downs, a debt-ridden farmer who Arthur had violently shaken down to retrieve debts ordered from Leopold Strauss. The doctor confirmed it. No cure, no future. And just like that, Arthur was on borrowed time. It was this looming death that changed him. The invincible gunslinger realized he wasn't just a weapon. He was a man, and he still had a choice in what kind of man he could be. Arthur began helping people he used to ignore. He gave money to the widow of the man he'd killed. He defended native tribes from government betrayal. He looked after John Marston and his family, trying to give them a future he'd never have. He told John to run, to take Abigail and Jack and disappear. Arthur had finally seen Dutch for who he truly was, and he wasn't going to let John go down with him. In the end, it all came to a head on a mountaintop. Arthur, broken and dying, fought Micah Bell one last time. Depending on your choices, if you played with honor, Arthur doesn't die in anger. He dies watching the sunrise, whispering, "I tried, in the end, I did." In those final moments, Arthur wasn't just an outlaw, he was a man who had finally found peace.